Well, today we have something different to wrap up our show. I have a story for you. It's actually based on a very familiar Christmas Eve story, but it's our own unique version featuring the TV6 news staff. I hope you'll enjoy it. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and in each UP house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that Santa Claus soon would be there. But at TV6 on this cold winter night, the lights in the studio were still burning bright. Sophie Erber and Greg Trick had one more newscast to do, and Carl Bonack and Mike Ludlam were still working too. The morning news team left a long time ago. They all headed home early through the ice and the snow. The young ones who served on the morning news crew were too excited to sleep. It was too hard to do. Sam Bauman was restless with thoughts of Santa on his mind, hoping under his tree a new soccer ball he'd find. Ansley was lonesome for family far away, so she was baking cookies to share on Christmas Day. Cassie and her hubby watched a movie on TV. Will Ferrell's Elf is what they chose to see. Meantime, Vicki in her kerchief was asleep in her bed, while visions of Ansley's cookies danced in her head. Out at the bureaus, all was quiet that night. The doors were locked. They had turned out the light. Ali and Houghton had finished up for the day. There was no more news tonight, nothing else to say. In Iron Mountain, Monique was just settling in for her first Christmas Eve in Upper Michigan. Back at the station, the late news was on the air. It was a quiet night in news without much to share. Then it was time for weather on that Christmas Eve night, and Carl Bonack stepped forward from just out of sight. "Good evening," he said. "I have bad news, I fear. There's a blizzard that stretches from the North Pole to here. There will be no Santa. He just can't make it through this storm. I don't know what happened. This is just not the norm. There are highs and lows and cold fronts galore. It's a crazy weather map like I've never seen before." Then outside the studio there arose such a clatter, they all looked outside to see what was the matter. Away to the window they flew like a flash, tore open the shades and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to their wondering eyes should appear but an old GMC van that was stuck in first gear. Behind the wheel was a driver. They all knew just who. It was news director Steve Asplund. He would know what to do. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Ethan, now Rachel, now Ben and Harry, on Nick, on John, on Aaron and Jerry. Get me to the newsroom and don't drop the ball. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As they drew in their heads and were turning around, in the door Steve Asplund came with a bound. He was dressed all in orange, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon let them know they had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work. He checked all the forecasts, then turned with a jerk. And as he looked at the group, he could see their dismay. But he said, "Don't give up. There's still hope for Christmas Day." Then Rebecca spoke up, saying, "This doesn't look right. These cords are all twisted and hidden from sight." "You're right," said Blair. "This is not what it should be. I'll get Steve to take a look. This is something he should see." The news director came over to check it all out and said, "This is the problem. Of that there's no doubt. Carl's weather maps are wrong. There's no massive snow. Santa will have clear sailing wherever he will go. The weather maps went crazy. The cables were amiss. There's no need to worry on a special night like this." So Carl went back on TV with good news to tell. "We had a scare," he said, "but it all turned out well. My work here is done," said Steve with a wave. "Santa is coming this Christmas to save." And laying his finger aside of his nose, he pulled on his cap, and from his chair he arose. Steve jumped back in his van. To his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." I'll be back in 2 minutes.